Is it on? I'm sorry. You think we're good with that? Did he get it? Okay. I'm sorry about that. Thank you for coming and welcome. Before we get started tonight, I'd like to make one short announcement, and it has to do with Councilman Medlin. He is not with us tonight, and he has been excused by the board. There is a family health emergency, and everyone please keep him in your prayers. And Scotty, Councilman Scott, would you please give invocation and presentation?
Dear Heavenly Father, we would like to thank you tonight for this wonderful place that we live. We would also like to ask you to watch over all the sick and the Medlin family as they go through their crisis. Please bless all of us, the town employees, our first responders, and we ask all this in your name. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, we'll have the council reports. Excuse me? Somebody's got my thing schedules wrong. Public hearing?
I apologize. That generally does come after the hearings.
Okay, excuse me.
Yes.
I'm sorry about that. Public hearing number 1. The purpose of the public hearing is to receive citizens' comments on a proposed text amendment to amend Section 14-31 and 18-32 to better control pools deemed dangerous to the public health and safety. Madam Clerk, do we have, who has that?
We do not have
list?
anyone signed up for that public hearing.
All right, the council can take action on this. Is there any discussion or action you'd like to take? Motion?
Got a motion to close the public hearing?
Second. All in favor? Okay, now we can take action. Any discussion? Any motion?
Make a motion, Madam Mayor, to approve the proposed amendments to Section 14-31 as presented.
All in favor? I'm sorry. All in favor? Motion passed. Public hearing number 2. The purpose of the public hearing is to receive citizens' comments on a proposed amendment, Section 18-413, procedure for approval of major subdivisions, B.C., to revise the language detailing the preliminary plat approval process. Is there anyone signed up for that?
No, ma'am.
I'll entertain a motion to close public hearing number 2.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Please, all in favor? Thank you. Public hearing number 3. The purpose of the
Madam Mayor.
public...
Take action.
We'll take a vote to close the public hearing, and then we'll also have...
I have to apologize, guys. I'm still having trouble getting the sequence. All right, discussion. A motion is entertained.
Move that we accept the preliminary text amendment as written.
Second, please. All in favor? Thank you. Public hearing number 4. Excuse me, I'm sorry. The purpose of the public hearing is to receive citizen comments on a proposed amendment, Section 18-193, non-conforming structures to allow destroyed homes to be rebuilt to their original height. Do we have anyone?
We don't have anyone signed up for that public hearing.
I'd entertain a motion to close public hearing number. I made them second. All in favor? You can take action on this time. Is there any discussion or motion?
Madam Mayor, make a motion to approve the 18-193 non-conforming structure as presented.
I'm sorry, Jake. Yes, of course.
Sorry for the interruption. In preparation for this, staff noticed a small error in the agenda packet that you have before you now, and with your permission, I'd like to pass out a handout that clarifies something in it.
This was the amendment change based on the FEMA flood map change, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you take a minute to read over that if there's any. Then the floor is open for discussion.
Can we hear from Jake?
So this does not change what was requested of the council last meeting to put together. It just provides a bit more clarification. You can see the text that we increased and made in red letters for you. Clarification gives you what you want. It's just something we found when we were looking over that would be beneficial.
Councilman Bell, I think you're the one that asked for the text. Do you have any discussion?
And basically, the reason I did this was the FEMA flood maps are scheduled to change, hopefully July, August, we hope. Those are not yet enacted, but when they do, some of the V-zone structures will now become A-zone. So we wanted some clarification as to what we needed to do with that.
Right.
Any further questions for Jake or any discussion? I'd entertain a motion.
You have a motion to approve as presented from Counselor Weinkoff. Do you want to amend that to include the correction? Okay. And then we need a second for that motion.
Second.
Second. All in favor? Motion passed. Public hearing number 4. The purpose of the public hearing is to receive citizen comments on a proposed amendment, Section 18-669, Standards for Limited Residential Development, to require a maximum allowable impervious surface area of 45% of the total lot area. And the plan on a stormwater application must show the impervious surface area and its percentage. The proposed change also states that any residential development that creates an impervious surface must have a professional engineered stormwater design plan. Anyone to sign up for that?
Yes, ma'am. Tyler Newman?
Would you state your name and, do they state their name and address on?
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Tyler Newman. I work for Business Alliance for a Sound Economy. We handle advocacy for the Brunswick County Home Builders Association and the Brunswick County Association of Realtors. I sent y'all an email yesterday outlining some of our specific concerns with this item. I think that there are significant impacts to current citizens of the town if you move forward with the text amendment as it's proposed. The Brunswick Realtors Association had a beach town meeting a couple weeks ago, and the town's planner was there, and he estimated that 100 to 200 existing structures in the town would be immediately impacted if the amendment goes through. And that is just looking at the primary structure itself. That's not looking at the driveway and the sidewalk and the shed out back or gravel or any of those kinds of things. So I think y'all probably as a group need to look at, I mean, obviously the number is bigger than 100 or 200. Figure that out what that number is in the town and look at those impacts before you move forward. The other thing that's important to note, the state is currently undergoing a rewrite of stormwater rules. The Environmental Management Commission will likely be bringing those forward in July. Those cover things like built upon area and storm thresholds and how you deal with storms and stormwater. So before you change standards on residential developments, you might want to see what the state rules are. Otherwise, you might be changing your stuff again at the end of the summer. So all that to say, there are significant impacts with this, and we'd encourage you to table it and go back and really look at how it's going to impact the folks that pay taxes and live here in the town. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Newman. Next. Is there any more?
Lynn Gullidge?
Good evening. My name's Lynn Gullidge. I reside at 126 Southwest 5th Street, and thank you for your time this evening. I just basically would like to echo what Mr. Tyler just voiced as far as concerns and impacts to the citizenry with the restrictions of the impervious area. In particular, given the state's taking action and there'll be other additional changes I too ask that the council table this until we have more information and have a better understanding of the true impact on the property owners of the town. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Gullidge. Bill Easley?
I'm Bill Easley. I own a couple properties on the island here. Good to see you again this month. As I saw you last month, talked about the same thing. This is a knee-jerk reaction to solving a problem by some well-intended folks, but there's no engineering data, there's no studies, there's nothing saying that if you change this impervious area coverage, that there's going to be any net change to the whole thing. As a matter of fact, you don't know that it's going to make it any better because you got nothing to go from other than just people's gut feelings that something's going to make things a little bit better. Other thing that I expect Lynn can back me on this, that will become a material fact when somebody goes to sell their house. And if you don't know whether or not you have a house that's non-conforming, you know, you can end up in a big bind. So that means everybody that's going to go out here to sell a house that is not just the smallest little house in the world, that has any idea that they may be, or the realtor feels like there may be an impervious area coverage problem, is going to need to get a surveyor to come out and calculate their impervious area coverage before they go and list their house. It's not going to solve any current problems that we have, and we don't know that it'll make anything any better. Obviously, it can't make anything any better. What's there is there, and we're going to continue to have the same, at least the same problems that we have right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Zell.
And then I have on the other sign-up sheet, but I think it was intended for this public hearing. Is it Pete Hayton? No, okay. Those are Fs, I'm sorry.
I signed up to comment on the same issue. It's Pete Laffey. I've been here about 2 years now. Okay, living on the island. I'm kind of surprised that this is being discussed because the last meeting I attended, which was the first one, there seemed to be unfamiliarity with this whole proposal, you know, expressed by yourselves. So I don't understand how it came back up, but it strikes me that also I think we're doing a development plan for the island, right? That things are under consideration, and this seems to be like a one-off, you know, shot in the dark, you know, coming out of left field. So it again disturbs me that it, you know, came up. Nobody recognized it the last time we discussed it. Okay, and you know, to echo the comments that have already been made, you know, it seems very limiting. Okay, that hasn't been studied properly, and could have a major impact on all the residents. So I would caution that, or suggest that maybe it be postponed until more information is available and it be compared to some of the other standards that are under consideration in the state, because it's going to obviously be complicated by those standards. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
I'd entertain a motion to close public meeting number 4. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Peter Key. I live at 238 Northeast 38th Street. I also am a realtor here on Oak Island and in the surrounding areas. On the environmental front of this subject, I support it 110%. I think the intention of this change is nothing but good for our island and the nature around it. However, as it stands right now, I see it as an impediment to homeowners, as an additional burden to them. As I understand, if somebody needs to get a permit to do work on their HVAC system that may have broken down, if they need to change some plumbing, they have some issues, they need to get a permit for that. If they have air conditioning, electrical work that needs to be done as an emergency service, they would need to get a permit for that. If they decided they wanted to extend their deck by 2 or 3 feet, and that would still be just a small change, they would need to get a permit for that. Any permit they need, because their home is now non-conforming, would then require them to get a stormwater engineering plan together, if I understand correctly. And that could cost thousands. So a person who now, may have a problem with their air conditioning system and have to have some wiring done, which requires an electrician, they're having $8,000 worth of work done for that, now has to come up with an additional thousands of dollars to get a stormwater plan put together and in place. I don't think that's good for the homeowners here on the island, and I think there might be a better way to do that. I don't know what it is, but I'm open to discussion, and I'd like to be a part of that discussion if necessary. Also, on the builders front, as the gentleman had said, as folks go to sell their homes here on the island, they're going to run into issues. I saw an article on WRAL News Channel where a gentleman went to sell his house, and he had to tear out his driveway, he had to tear out his front sidewalk, he had to tear out his pavers that the builder had installed for a grilling platform. He bought the house brand new. The city had passed it and had somehow missed that it was past the impervious goal. He had to rip out all of that prior to being able to sell his house. It cost him additional thousands again to be able to dispense with his property in the way that he saw fit. Placing impediments in front of homeowners is not the way we want to do business. We want to make it as easy and transparent as possible. And I would just like to ask the council to please open the floor to more discussion to find a better way to execute this plan. Thank you.
Please. Now I entertain a motion to close session. Public hearing number 4.
So moved.
Is there a motion on the floor? Second? All in favor? I think before we get, this is such a complicated issue, I think maybe Jake and Steve, if you'd be willing to answer some questions for the council members. And Councilmember Weinkauf, we'll start with you.
If you don't mind, can you answer some of the?
Some of the comments that were made?
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to address the permitting issues that were discussed. Yes, permits are required whenever you do repairs or restorations to your home. There are exceptions, for mechanical, plumbing, and electrical when permits would not be required. Expansion on the open deck is not going to increase any impervious surface, so that wouldn't require any type of permit as well. For stormwater, it does require a building permit. Building permit's required when anything structural. It doesn't matter if it's a $100 job and you're replacing a structural member, you have to get a building permit. There is an exception under the building permit that allows you to do work up to $15,000 without having to get a permit as long as it's not structural. Minor repair, replacement to plumbing, electrical switches and devices, and mechanical work. Services like that do not require permits. The town also, in its policy right now, if you're adding a storage building of 300 square feet, and we can incorporate this into the language, it's been policy in the past, we would not require a stormwater plan for 300 square feet structure. Do you have questions? Oh, I'm sorry. You picked your hand up. I apologize. The policy was if it was 300 square feet, we didn't require permits. I did talk with an engineer today that just did a stormwater design for a gentleman on the island because he had stormwater issues, and I asked her to give me a cost estimate of what it was to design these stormwater plans, and she said it's between $350 and $750, depending on the job and the amount of things. If you're going with underground systems, then it's going to cost more. If you can do just volume calculations on top of the surface by creating swells, you're in the lower $350 range, which is where she was on this particular design on the island. She also said that these are really fairly simple calculations, and she did support allowing land surveyors and homeowners to be able to provide these calculations to us without having to go with engineering. And again, that's for creating just a volume storage. And I could support a change of that going from an engineering requirement to creating the ordinance to allow land surveyors to continue using it. What I want to get away from is the allowance of what we have put in place as the town standard, which is all I'm seeing design being done as town standards, but we are now in areas that the water table is too high to accept these town standards, and we can't keep putting those in. So we've got to change something. And with the 45%, you know, that, everybody's focused on that as being the ultimate build-about area, but you now can create pervious driveways. So you can incorporate more into your home and accessory structures with that 45% by doing alternative design work with your driveways. You know, either through, you know, stormwater design for all gravel, which you can get 100% credit on, or through innovative stormwater design for pervious pavers and asphalt. So there are alternative designs that could be incorporated to, you know, you can build well above the 45% to include parking and paving, and it's also to help bring together the tree ordinance. I mean, you know, we're trying to, you know, we've got so many things going on here. You know, we've got people that want to protect and save the trees, and it is called Oak Island because, you know, that's what we're known for, the oak trees here. So trying to incorporate all of this together is what we're doing. And also, this isn't something that, it's not a knee-jerk reaction to anything. This is what's been in the CAMA land use plan for years, that we were going to take and create build-upon areas, a maximum build-upon area to reduce stormwater runoff. So we're just following through policy that has been set in place, you know, for over decades, or a decade at least, and that's why we're moving forward with it. The environmental committee's been working on it for a couple of years, and I'm just picking up where John Michaud had left off and bringing it forward.
How far out are we on the tree ordinance with the arborist?
I spoke with her as well as the NC Forest Service today. Quick progress report on that. We've sent in our first reimbursement. All the paperwork's been done. We did a public engagement session. She just sent me a draft copy of the public engagement meeting summary notes. I'm presenting to both the Tree City and environmental boards. The arborist we hired and contracted with is currently in the process of putting together some resources we can put on our website, and then the next step is for her to draft the first section, and we'll submit those drafts to the town boards for comment and input that she can review and incorporate. Fingers crossed, barring any hiccups, I hope to have something in hand around August.
So about 3 to 4 months, somewhere in that neighborhood, out from having the
Yes,
ordinance.
and we've worked that out with NC Forest Service, the timeline.
Are you good?
I'm sort of good.
Still thinking? We'll come back around.
Yeah.
Charlie, do you have any, Councilman Blaylock?
Well, my major concern, as it always has been, is, and I never thought I'd hear myself say this, it's the trees. I guess I'm a tree hugger. I ride by and I see all these lots and there's no trees left. There must be a better way to do this. There must be able to come up with something, come together somehow and accomplish both. I talked to some folks up at the state the other day, a very nice lady up there, and she echoed what Steve said. There's other ways to approach it. There's other ways to. Somebody had told me that gravel was impervious, and that's not true. It depends on what kind of gravel it is, and it depends on what kind of layer you put underneath the gravel. And I got a stack of stuff. She sent me this thick. I'm buried in it, but there are a whole host of things that need to be looked at. And at this point, I am still learning. I'm inundated with all kinds of things. And having made contact with this lady, she's very, very helpful. And I'll pass that along to the rest of you if you want to contact her. And her key thing was, you got to work together. She says there's a way to do things, but you got to come together. You got to work together to make it work. She said you can't try to make it all one way or all the other. She's dealt with it many, many times in other areas, and that was what you said, Steve. She said there's creative ways to deal with it. You just have to be willing to work with each other. And I'll leave it at that.
Councilman Scott?
What's the main goal we're trying to accomplish here?
The reduced amount of
Yeah.
stormwater runoff.
Because of the recent flooding or just in general?
No,
or-
as I said, this has been in the Cameron land use policies for years. It was in the old Long Beach policy, and it's now being transferred over to the comprehensive plan. If we want to take that out, now's the time to do it, saying that we're not going to look at creating a maximum build-upon area. This is something that John Michaud and I have talked about for the last 3 years, and unfortunately, John left, and I'm just bringing it forward, just following through with what was being put in place. But
And
you know, it's, again, the main objective is to cut down on stormwater runoff to getting into your streams, your estuaries, and, you know, some of these places will never be open again for shell fishing. But, you know, that doesn't mean we should just say, well, let's keep flooding them. I mean,
Right. And in here, it mentions the 20% left for the island to be built out. Is that a correct figure? I thought it was more than that.
That figure came from our consultants that are doing the land use plan. They put together a table that showed the build out on the island, the number of developable parcels that was left, how much had been built out already. It's in a table.
But some of those parcels are actually more than one lot.
That's correct. So that number is just skewed a little because there are multiple lots underneath parcels. We've been combining them so they wouldn't have to pay sewer assessments, and now so they don't have to pay sewer district fees. So lots are being combined, and we saw it during the constructions from 2005 to 2008, where they were buying the older homes that sat on 3 lots that were under one parcel, and they started creating 3 lots and building on, and it'll eventually, that number is close, but I would say that there's probably more lots that will be built upon.
I just have one more thing. I see down here at the bottom, it says that Atlantic Beach has a 40% impervious surface coverage for their residential needs, and Ocean Isle has 50%. And then Mint Hill has 30% for institutional uses, which that doesn't count, because we're not talking about that. But what about, did you survey any of the other, what was the average on everybody you talked to so far as what they were doing?
What we have is what you see in that paragraph at the bottom of the first page of the staff memo that you just quoted. So that's the information we have on hand right now regarding impervious surface for other communities.
Like 2 references?
We looked at several areas. I called a bunch of beaches, and I also went online and looked at the ordinances. There's some areas that don't have any maximum build-upon area. Evidently, I think that gentleman said Wilmington just made somebody tear up their driveway and sidewalk, so obviously they've got a maximum build-upon surface area. That could have been in a subdivision, though, that had a state stormwater permit as well. But on average, I would say that we're seeing up somewhere between 30 and 50%. So if you want to find a median in there, 40%, 45%, if you wanted to try and go with an average. Yeah, again, though, you've got to start thinking outside the box. If you want larger house, more accessory structure, then you need to start looking at alternative designs with your driveway and your parking area. It's like Councilman Blaylock was saying, that gravel is considered impervious unless it's installed in a manner as defined by the build-upon area, which is you lay down geotextile fabric and you put 4 inches of number 57 stone on top, and they consider that a pervious driveway or parking area. So you can, you can design more parking, more driveway, and still apply a lot of impervious build-upon area to your home. As for nonconformancies, legal nonconforming uses or structures, the island's littered with those. I was surprised at the fact that, and it's been a while since I've been to a bank to borrow money, but at one point you couldn't get a loan without a survey. And if you had a non-conforming structure on there to the setback, you couldn't get a loan on it. But now the bank doesn't even require any surveys. But again, it's been a while, so I don't know if they changed that standard, especially with all the institution failures they had recently.
One more thing. And I think, for years, as far as I've known, we've used surveyors to try to figure this out, the pervious versus impervious. And now we're talking about engineered and one thing and another. The engineered, or that's just more comprehensive, or, the certain percentage amount all of a sudden it falls over to an engineer, how is that determined?
Well, I think it really involved more of a complex lot that needs to be developed if it's got a real high water table. We've got properties that are developing in wetlands. How do you do stormwater runoff in a wetland? You just figure out a swell area and run it to it. But again, when I talked to the engineer that I spoke with today, you can do on-ground storage, just creating a swell area on the lot. You still should maintain, separation between the groundwater. The only problem is if you dig a swell down and you get into the water table and you're counting that volume in that water table, you can't count that volume because it's already taken up by the water table, and that's what we're seeing with these pits that are being installed. I had to make two, just in the past week, make corrections on their stormwater. One, I get there and there's a foot of water in the bottom of this pit, and it's a 3-foot pit. So I had to raise it up, get above the water table, and put a shallower stormwater in there. And we can work with them and get the design done. We can work with the surveyors. I just want to get away from the town standards and put the burden back on the developer, the builders, and the homeowners that are constructing these homes to design their own stormwater.
Thanks, Steve.
Councilmember Bell?
I guess my biggest concern is the non-conforming structures and the capability of getting a mortgage. I can understand if someone is building out their whole building envelope and then want a swimming pool and 2 concrete driveways and a 20 by 24 garage. I understand the 45% maximum and having to have an engineered stormwater. I don't understand someone who's just building a house with a driveway and a storage building in the back. If there was some way, and we actually received an email today with a alternative recommendation where a stormwater engineer would only be required when it was a new home or existing home addition that would exceed the 45% impervious surface. That would alleviate the structures that are non-conforming now. It wouldn't affect them unless they came in and said, I want to add to what's already over the 45%. I'm still think that I'm of the opinion that we need to table it until the state decides what they're going to do in July.
To sit around and wait to see what the state does, the state may not do anything. I have no idea. We've had this similar conversation in the past about, well, let's see what the state does, and council at that time said, no, we'll move forward with it because they didn't know what the state would do, or even if it would get passed, or if it would get hung up in the House or Senate.
The 45% option is certainly an avenue we can pursue if it's the will of the council to revise the text amendment as it's written. So it's up to you guys.
Do we have any rules that govern that right now? Do we have any of that today?
There's no maximum built-upon area rule now, no.
That surprises me.
But it's been our county land use policy for years to create one.
I was surprised. I asked Councilman Bell about that, and I was surprised when she told me there was no plan. I thought we were trying to make adjustments to a plan that was already in force. And then I find there's no plan at all. So it sounds like we need to move forward with something.
Madam Mayor, if I can go ahead. And I received the same email from one of our builders who actually said that, and I agree with his comments, and he said he'd actually approve of 50%. And we've been sitting here talking about this with the new UDO and the comprehensive land use management plan we've been going on. And with all the citizens' input that has came back in, and the main things they keep saying over and over and over is, keep our small town charm, keep our tree lines, and that's something I think we need to look at and honor, because it's stated over and over and over again. And they made it very clear by taking the time to do all these surveys. They made it very clear when we had the open meetings for them to come to, and they came in here and filled the rooms up twice, that that's what they wanted to see in our town. And I don't think it's where we should be punishing the homeowner with a lot of fees for stormwater design unless they get to that threshold and go over it. So I'm in favor of doing something, but not putting all these engineer fees on them until they get to that point. And also, we did have a conversation, I had a conversation with Holden Beach, their town manager, about their plan. And I said in last meeting how trees are part of that plan that has to go hand in hand. And we're 3 to 4 months out from having a tree ordinance. So if we approve this, I'd like to add some other text to it.
Any more questions for Steve? Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I'd entertain a motion.
Let's see if this will fly. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the ordinance with the 45% with no engineer design unless it goes over that 45%. Along with that, until our tree ordinance gets in place, I would like to see that no lots are clear cut, that trees remain on this lot, on the lots. If they are clear cut lots that go on, a $10,000 fine, and trees put back on this lot for any approval is passed. And once we get the tree ordinance in place, we can go and amend this ordinance.
Town manager, do we need to clarify some of those comments?
I
with
believe
our-
so. I was just consulting with Brian. I believe we need to have ordinance amendments in writing before you can consider it. So, I mean, I think if you would want to, I mean, I hate to say put it off one more time, but if you want to direct staff to create that language and bring it to you, I would feel more comfortable with that.
I would prefer that.
Are you withdrawing your motion?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Consensus.
I entertain a motion, please. Any motion?
You could have a,
Just got a consensus to have staff look at it, right?
Yes.
That's all they need.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't need to make a motion to table it?
From council.
Thank you, Steve.
can I ask one clarification question? Sure. So the tree part of that ordinance, that will be in a different section of the ordinance, and that's not technically, that's not in chapter 18, so that would not be required to go to the planning board. We generally send tree ordinances
Right.
through the planning board. What's the pleasure of council as far as bringing this back straight to council?
Until we get the tree ordinance, this will be a provision in the,
So you'd like this to come to council?
yes.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Just to make sure I understand, the 45% part of the text amendment, bring back before the board next month. The other part you mentioned about the clear cutting and whatnot goes before council once the tree protection ordinance is put together?
No, it goes
That'll
goes with this.
They would like to consider that all together, and then they'll
Okay.
consider the tree ordinance when it is prepared and comes before them.
Okay, so around August or so, okay.
Won't we have to specify how many trees is not considered clear cutting?
That's what I was just talking.
If you leave one tree, that's not clear cutting. So I mean, or
Well, that's,
a minimum.
I just literally
Okay.
2
Yeah.
seconds ago said we need to define clear cutting.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you, everyone. Public hearing number 5. The purpose of the public hearing is to receive citizens' comments on a proposed amendment, section 18-32, definitions, to alter the single-family dwellings definition, to remove the language limiting the number of bedrooms, and to have the definition of bedrooms in section 18-32 match the definition in the state building code, and to amend section 18-683. Terms defined, to have the definition of the built-upon area match the definition in the state building code, and to amend the section 18-148. Minimum parking requirements, to adjust the parking requirements for residential development, and to have the definition of habitable space, section 8-141 adjusted. Is there any?
I don't have anyone signed up for this public hearing.
I'd entertain a motion to close public,
Hearing so moved.
second. All in favor? We can take action on this at time. Do we have any discussion?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I have a couple things. As our ordinance had stated before it got, state took it away from us, we had one parking space per bedroom. And now we're defining bedroom as a habitable room and the off-street parking. I like to see that adjusted. I don't want to see off-street parking. Yeah, but we have an ordinance in place. If it's on their property, they can't park there for 72 hours. So why do we want to go against our own ordinance? They're going to have to keep moving their cars, right?
Thanks, Steve.
So you're saying off-street parking is not on the street right away?
That's correct.
It's on their property?
Correct. Yeah,
Okay, in the wording, it sounds like the parking space would be allowed to be on the street.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So it's on,
But you're
actually
telling
on
me the
their property.
definition,
It's on the,
Not in the right of way.
right, that language has been in the
Okay.
definitions for years, that off-street, they gotta have two off-street, the way it used to be written was minimum of two off-street parking, meaning they can't count anything in the right-of-way as a required parking space. So they don't get to count anything. And the definition of bedroom is changed to what the state definition is, but we're changing the number of parking based off of the number of habitable rooms instead of bedrooms, because habitable room, you can put somebody in there to sleep. You know, whether it be a den with a fold-out couch, or
Right.
or an office space, or a media room, or exercise room, whatever they call them on the plans.
And I agree with that. But I'd like to see one parking space per habitable room.
Per habitable room.
And in this section where we charge an impact fee, because the whole idea is to make sure this house is conforming with our sewer system so it's not overloaded, right?
Correct. And discussion among staff has already been talked about addressing the fees for the sewer.
And
too,
so if they go,
if this is
if
passed,
they build over a three-bedroom, they're charged $880 per bedroom?
that's what the current fees are, yes.
Any more questions for Steve? Councilman Weinkauf, I didn't catch, were you suggesting a text amendment or to,
Yes,
Okay.
I was.
would you like to make a motion on that or table it?
so a
or-
habitable room could actually be a living room?
Correct.
Because they could put somebody in there to sleep,
Correct.
Or media room, or a den, or a family room, or
or a sewing room, or a,
whatever we're gonna call it.
But I mean, the reason we started at 2 and 4 was, that would almost equate to a three-bedroom house at the most, if you had 3 bedrooms, and then a great room with the living, the dining combination area. We wouldn't count, and I think Jake was specific on the definition of excluding kitchen, places
Right.
for cooking or eating purposes.
Oh,
So-
yeah, yeah.
But technically, it would put you back to a minimum of 2 parking spaces for a 3-bedroom house. And then once you got to 4 bedrooms, you'd have to have 3 parking space or a fourth, or another habitable room. So,
Yeah, but if you've got a habitable room and you've got 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, and you turn these other habitable rooms into sleeping quarters, you've got probably about 7 or 8 cars there.
oh, absolutely.
So if you're going to make sure these houses conform to our sewer system, that's the main thing. I mean, I don't think anybody in this town can afford another vac station because we're allowing these big houses to destroy the system. And that's exactly what it's doing. It's going to take away from somebody building a home because we don't have enough capacity at one of the vac stations in the future. So either we can tell it right now and get everything in line, or in the future, there's gonna have to be another vac station built somewhere, and the taxpayers going to pay for it. I mean, I can't help what was designed by previous councils and engineers, but we have to make sure the system doesn't go in fault because we haven't met that design or stayed with that design.
Right, and like I said, once we move forward with the change in the definition, there's already been staff discussion about redesigning fee schedule.
And does the $880,
I would have to yield that to Dave Kelly.
does it keep the bedrooms in line, or do they just pay it and keep building? Okay.
Any further discussion? Do we have a motion of any kind? So it ties from lack of a motion?
So there's no motion from council?
Are you gonna change that to one per habitable, one parking space? Is everybody in consensus with that? Open discussion?
So that's gonna give a bedroom for every habitable, a parking space for every habitable room.
As defined.
So even if you've got a 2-bedroom, 2-bath house, they're gonna have to have,
Living room, you'll have 3 parking spaces required.
May I comment on?
please.
Now, just for an example, if we did it for every habitable room, if you have and what I see in the most common house build is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, great room. Living, kitchen, dining, all combined. And if we do one for every habitable room, that's a 4 habitable room house, and now you're gonna require 4 parking spaces for a 3-bedroom house. Okay.
I got a 3-bedroom house, a living room, and I can put 6 cars there.
I'm saying, I can get 6 in my driveway too.
That's gonna be difficult. I think that's gonna be difficult.
I think at the planning board, some of the discussion was about the houses that are being built on slabs, that would still be difficult to meet those parking requirements. In the wooded section, the smaller houses.
And they still the 2 off street.
One example we were given by a builder was there was a house going in, and it had a garage, but then there would not have been room for enough parking spaces in front of the house. I guess you can get into discussion about whether you're gonna move the house further back on the lot, or, you'd have to get into all of that.
You could stagger it. I mean, it'd take some number crunching, but you could say once you get to X number of habitable rooms, then these parking things. Instead of starting from the very first habitable room or first bedroom, whatever you want to call it, you could set a threshold. Once you get to this number of habitable rooms, then a stronger parking requirement could kick in.
We could reduce the number to 2 parking spaces for the first 3 habitable rooms. And, then a 2-bedroom house with a great room, which I just approved one of those, and you'd only have to have 2 parking spaces.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. Yep.
And then if they start adding the sewing room and the computer room and then they're
It's
gonna have
one
to have.
parking space
okay.
per,
I like that.
yeah. That could be, yeah.
So you want to amend it, you want to make a
So
motion?
it's making a motion?
Okay, all right, I make a motion to adopt post-text amendment for section 18-32, definition dwellings, single family and bedroom, section 18-163, terms defined, built upon area, 8-141, definition habitable room, and 18-148, minimum parking requirements, residential dwelling as amended.
Second.
All in favor? Motion passed. Public hearing number 6. The purpose of the public hearing is to receive citizens' comments on a proposed amendment, section 18-32, definitions, to remove the language limiting the number of bedrooms and to clarify maximum square footage applies on the island side only. Do I have anyone to speak on that?
No, ma'am.
I'll entertain a motion to close public meeting number 6.
So moved.
Second, please. All in favor? Thank you. Now we will move into our public meeting.
Yep.
Public hearing action.
Action.
Action on that public hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry, I just closed it. I'm sorry. All right. Discussion?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I make a motion to approve the text amendment to section 18-32 definition for dwelling single-family as presented.
Do we have a second? Second, anyone?
Second.
All in favor? All unanimous. Sorry. Lisa, my thing is a little screwy here, so it's public comments.
Well, you can have your council reports if you want to do that next.
Okay. Are we going to start with our council reports?
No report, Madam Mayor.
How about you, Councilman Blaylock?
Well, I just wanted to mention the fact that, Becky, where are you? How do you pronounce your last name so I don't mess it up? Grizzle, not Grizzly. First time I met her, I messed it up. I always want to thank her for taking over the community watch and breathing life back into it so that I think it's a really important part of the community. So I just wanted to bring that up. Thank you.
Have no report.
Councilman Bell? I don't have a report. I'd just like to say thank you to our dedicated staff that joins us at these meetings month after month and is more than willing to answer questions. Thank you guys for being here. Now we're moving to our public comment section.
Madam Mayor, if we'll do the adjustment of the agenda first.
I apologize. My thing is not in order tonight for some reason.
And I have two things to note for that, if I may.
Please do.
Okay, the Beach Preservation Society Trust Fund Board, we advertised for one position on that. Since we advertised for it, another position became open. We did have 3 applicants. There are now actually 2 positions open, so if council would choose to make 2 appointments, or you can direct me to advertise for it again next month. I'll leave that to council. And then if we could add 2 items. After I printed the agenda packet, I realized I needed to put 2 more things on there. I did put them on the agenda online, and I have printed them out and put them at the council table tonight. And so it's consent agenda number 8 for a request to release interest on a sewer assessment and the parcels to be held in abeyance as they are unbuildable and are owned by the State of North Carolina Division of Marine Fisheries. And the other one is for release of a sewer assessment, and just for the public's knowledge, this will be consent agenda number 9. For the public's knowledge, this was a sewer assessment that was actually levied on what is essentially a half lot. Should not have been divided out that way back in 1982, but that's what happened. So that is also an unbuildable lot and should not have been assessed.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Now we're in the public session, public meeting.
We could have a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
My thing, again, I apologize, mine is not matching anybody else's. So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. Public comments, please. Do we have some?
Yes, first we have Jan Gallagher.
Welcome.
My name is Jan Gallagher, and I live on 1100 Elizabeth Drive. Elizabeth Drive is a lovely, quiet, residential part of Oak Island, and many visitors and residents like to walk its pretty twists and turns. Many joggers, bike riders, mamas with strollers, and elderly dog walkers walk the length of Elizabeth Drive. However, there are some people who use Elizabeth Drive as a speedway. The posted speed on my street is 15 miles per hour, but rarely do I see a car do the posted speed limit. Honestly, I would be happy if drivers would do even twice that amount. Unfortunately, many drivers drive 45 or more on this twisty, narrow little residential street, much to the peril of anyone who happens to be walking on it. Especially in the summer and on holiday weekends when Oak Island Drive gets congested, Many try to make better time on the side streets, zipping through the neighborhood to beat the traffic to the bridge. But here's a potential solution, and it's relatively simple. Make the intersection of Kroll and Elizabeth Drive a three-way stop. There are already stops on Yacht Drive. One is warranted here as well. This is a neighborhood, not an alternative throughway, an alternate throughway. This extra stop sign will slow these speeders down. I think it's important to keep our quiet pedestrians who are merely wanting to enjoy a pleasant walk in the sunshine safe from reckless drivers who aren't giving them a thought. Installing stop signs is one way to do this. I'm asking the town council to help us keep Oak Island safe.
Thank you, Jan.
Betty Hupp.
Excuse me for taking so long. I'm moving slow, but I'm still moving. My name is Betty Hupp. I live at 7916 East Yacht Drive. And I'm complaining tonight. In this town, a differing opinion from you who are in power is not easy to get expressed. I wrote a letter to the editor of the Stateport Pilot. They wouldn't publish it. Then you all decided our town clerk would no longer read aloud statements from people who could not attend city council meetings. I couldn't come, I had surgery. I'm here because I want to get my words said. I want townspeople to know what I'm going to say, and this is what it is. When Mr. Purser, the developer of the 62nd Street property on Oak Island, had his tent meeting to discuss the benefits of his development, I attended and listened as Darrell Royal refuted several of his statements. Joy Brochure, Sin Brochure, Joy Brochure, Sin Brochure is estranged husband, and those are his words, not mine, and Sin Brochure and I walked into the property. I thought I saw a tidal creek there. I did not walk far because I was scared I'd fall. Mr. Brochure gave me his card. He is a licensed surveyor. When this city council had been in office less than 30 minutes, you voted to allow Mr. Purser to proceed with his development. There was a tie. Sin Brochure, our new mayor, broke that tie. Mr. Brochure was the surveyor of Mr. Purser's property. Mr. Brochure gave Sin Brochure $100 toward her campaign, by the way. Madam Mayor, I believe you had a conflict of interest, big time. And until you all protect the wetlands on both sides, on the inland waterway and on the ocean, don't ask us townspeople to re-nourish failing beaches. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Huff. Any more, Lisa?
Roseanne Fortner.
The tight council agenda didn't allow for committee reports tonight, so I'm going to squeeze the Beach Preservation Committee report into 5 minutes. Listen fast.
We have 3 minutes now.
3 minutes?
There are 3 minutes.
Oh, geez. Okay. Number one, the ambassadors have trained 26 people last week, but we need some more. Please contact Skip Cox, skipncsu@gmail, if you're interested in being a beach ambassador this year. We need you. The consent agenda includes a memorandum of understanding spelling out how beach ambassadors and beach preservation folks and the town are related fiscally, conceptually, and so forth. Please pass that if it meets with your approval. Talk with me if it doesn't. Second, we are using our money in beach preservation that we get from your memberships and your tickets and so forth to enhance the beach experience for all of us. We'll be putting out 10 new dog boxes in the coming weeks. Those are designed to be poop-free so that people don't put their used bags back into the doggy boxes that are now there. We're also supporting the development of a pilot program for some showers called rinsing stations so that people who walk to the beach long distances can clean up a little bit before they have to walk back to their homes or cars. We'll be trying different kinds of things, and Beach Preservation is supporting the hardware as Public Works puts those together. Third thing, we need more money for these good works, and our fundraiser is Saturday from noon to 2:30. Tickets are $30, and I have some with me at the break. There'll be 13 wines for the Americas to taste for that amount of money and some wonderful hors d'oeuvres, and you can build on wonderful items like the auction samplers that we've been putting out every month for the last 3 council meetings. There is an education component to this meeting as well, as we have a display about how the Lockwood Folly Inlet has changed over about the last 80 years, a running display of that. Finally, we need more people to lead these works, and I hope that council will approve 2 applicants of the 3 well-qualified people who have applied for board membership. Thank you.
Good job, Roseanne. Thank you.
And we have Helen Cashwell.
Good evening. I'm Helen Cashwell, 3407 East Yacht Drive. I attended the council retreat in January where the town manager passed out a packet for the council that was not read during the meeting, nor was it discussed or voted on. Later, after talking to Council Weinkauf, I learned that supposedly at that retreat, the council made the decision to restrict public comments to 3 minutes from the existing 5 minutes that is in your council's rules of procedure. The second item that supposedly emerged from the retreat was that committee reports would not be read during council, but submitted for the record. Volunteerism is at best sorely needed in any town, and Oak Island is certainly not an exception. To have committee members spend many hours on their project, just as you heard Rosemary say, be reduced to submitting for the record is a slap in the face for all concerned. The balance of your constituents would also like to know what's being done and understand how this town functions in aspects of the committees, just not the ones that are in favor. This existing council ran on a mantra of transparency and meeting with the public, which has become a non-existing mantra. No one knows where the record is, and interestingly enough, the agenda that is before you tonight states that public comments will be limited to 5 minutes according to the Rule 4B and 24.2 in the Council's Rules of Procedures. So what's the real amount of the time? 3, 5, or whatever you decide? How about doing some real change around here? Every citizen in Oak Island does not get Channel 8, nor do they have access to the internet, but you'll certainly have no problem sending out their tax bills. I guess many of us like to have consistency in record keeping, and I will refer you to an item for transferring funds tonight for a stormwater pump. Why couldn't that bill have been correct as opposed to a handwritten amount, which is more than half of the figure on the bill? Would it have been cheaper to buy 2, as that bill states? In observing this council's actions for the past 3 months, I believe your overriding concern is seeing how short you can make the council meetings become and the fewer problems you'll have to be faced with. We deserve more of your monthly attention than that.
Thank you, Ms. Caswell.
Jack Moore.
I'm Jack Moore, and I live at 113 Southwest Yacht Drive. What I have to say may be moot if, it's hard to hear back there, but I heard something concerning consent agenda. If you've already closed it out, what I'm saying is meaningless. I'm here to oppose item 5 on the consent agenda, and that is for giving interest on sewer assessments. I think I was at the first meeting of the council the first time, and there may be others since then, when that first exception was made. There was comments at that time that exceptions lead to more exceptions. It's like igniting a fire, and here you are again, ready to approve more exceptions. Now, let me speak just a minute about the concept. The original ordinance for the sewer, which had the assessment fees in it, the concept was this was part of the funding. If you didn't pay what was due, there was a cost to the town of not having these funds. That's the concept. So the interest was to recover the cost that the town had from lack of use of these funds. And I don't think there's any argument with that. That's the concept. Well, I submit to you that every time that you forgive this interest for whatever reason, then you are shifting that cost from that person or that property owner who did not pay what they owed to the rest of us taxpayers, because there was a cost. The concept is there's a cost to not having that money. So the cost now goes, every time you make an exception and forgive this interest, the cost goes to each and every taxpayer in here. And I asked you, please stop making these exceptions. Exceptions, the first one was an exception. Now we're into exceptions. They lead to norm, and that's not what an exception is supposed to be. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it?
Signed up.
I'd entertain a motion to close the public meeting section, please.
So
We
moved.
don't need a motion.
Second. All in favor? Likewise. Okay, I'd like to address my council with one short statement. I nor my former husband have past, present, or future ever had any financial connection with the builder David Purcell or any of his company. All right, moving along. Lisa, the consent agenda has not been accepted yet.
No.
At this time, I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Okay.
Is there a second? I'm sorry.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Jeff, did you? Are you opposing?
Yeah.
Okay, so 3, thank you. Committee appointments. The Board of Adjustments has 2 applicants. By show of hands, please vote for Charles Coffey. Nicole Cutter. Unanimous, Nicole Cutter.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
we have a alternate position on the Board of Adjustment.
2 available.
2. Could we ask Mr. Coffey if he would be willing to serve on one of those alternate positions? Is that,
Okay, thank you.
can we do that?
Thank you. Beach,
That's what this is.
There hasn't been a
No,
majority
this is
vote.
for a regular. This was for a regular position.
whether to ask him if he's willing to serve as an alternate?
But you're going to do that, but if he says yes, then you're gonna have to come back and vote
Yes,
him
we'll
in.
put it on the next
Yeah, it
agenda.
needs to be on the
You
next.
could vote now contingent upon him accepting it, and you wouldn't have to revisit it again if you wanted.
Better option.
So moved.
Okay.
Beach Preservation
So
Society.
gotta have a vote.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought everybody voted. Go ahead. All in favor?
Okay.
No.
Beach Preservation Society. There's 2 openings, to my understanding, correct, Lisa?
Yes.
Okay. Mary, how do you say her last name?
Frere? I'm not sure. Yeah.
Mary Frere?
She is for the 2017,
Yes.
the one ending for 2017, correct?
Yes.
Okay. We're voting.
All in favor? 3 and 1. Okay. Ben White? Par 3 Golf Course Ad Hoc Committee. This is one term for South Harbor resident. Daniel Russo. Or Raymond Weinkoff. All right, thank you. Parks and Recs Advisory Board, 2 terms ending March 2019. Dennis Maneri. All right, and J.C. Moss. And I believe this is they're already on the board.
These are reappointments, yes, ma'am.
All in favor? Okay, one opposed. All right, thank you. Administrative reports. Town manager, do you have anything?
Yes, ma'am. I wanted to speak a little bit about the Citizens Academy. We had a tour day on Saturday. We visited the Middleton Station, the Public Works and Public Utilities offices back here behind Town Hall, the Fish Factory Road Plant, and the Satellite Water Reclamation Facility on Yacht Drive. And that despite Saturday's subject matter, which was a lot of sewer, the participants seem to really be enjoying it, and we're getting a lot of positive feedback about their participation. We sent another set of questions to Brunswick County on the utilities transfer, and that included a number of scenarios that we are asked about or have to deal with on a near daily situation. And these are questions about if we have this situation, how much are the fees going to be? And so then we can do a comparison between our fees and what the county would charge if we transfer the system over. The next round of beach nourishment public meetings that we are going to have with our beach consultant, they're going to be on Thursday, April 21st from 6 to 8, and Saturday, April 23rd from 1 to 3, and they will be right here in this room, and the public is invited to attend. And I just wanted to address something about the changes in the public comments and the committee reports. Those items were brought up at the council retreat in January. Council did not take action on those items at that time. We put that on a consent agenda, and I'm sorry, I'll have to look it up. I'm not sure if it was in February or March, but those changes were approved by council. The consent agenda, along with the rest of the agenda items, are published well in advance of the council meeting. So I just wanted to make that notation. And the part on the agenda where it still says 5 minutes, that's just on my part. I need to take that out and change that to 3. But the correct amount is 3 minutes.
Thank you, Lisa. Town Attorney, Ryan, do you have anything?
No report.
We have no old business tonight, but we do have new business. And the first thing on that list is consideration of a request to release a sewer assessment, and I think our tax collector is here. Linda, would you mind? I think for and the public, would you please let us know, read that out or give us some information on it?
To be sure I'm correct, this is the one, yes. You want me to read the whole thing, Madam Mayor?
Whatever you feel like we need to make a decision.
May I just explain it briefly?
Please.
My office, I'm Linda Harris, I'm your tax collector, in case you don't know who I am. My office has been doing extensive work in the very recent past, saying the past few months. When I first came here in 2014, we started working delinquent tax and delinquent sewer assessments. That was a position that had not been handled as a normal tax collector. There were a lot of inexperienced people there. So when I came in, the bottom kind of fell out. We've been really, really working on delinquent taxes, delinquent assessments. These assessments that are before you tonight or were on the consent agenda were a result of the work that we've recently been doing. We sent out letters noticing people who had never made the first payment. So, collected a lot of money, a lot of problems came to surface. And these are the result of this work. I'd just like to make that clear because I know there's a lot of, excuse me, adversity in releasing interest or releasing anything. The gentleman that I'm talking about in this situation purchased the property from RBC Bank. There was not a tax certification done.
A lot of you in the audience know that that is just not an acceptable, good thing to do. You can miss taxes owed, you can miss anything. This assessment was missed. Our system, our old sewer assessment system, is a very not user-friendly. The tax system and the sewer system do not read each other. There has been a lot of training and a lot of new personnel in the tax office. Therefore, addresses are not, and ownership is not always changed. So, my investigation indicated this gentleman purchased this property. There was not a tax certification done. He was noticed. It was put on one of the pieces of paper from the attorney, and I'll not mention that name. We have several attorneys here on the island that know this, and so I was surprised at this whole situation. But when I contacted the attorney said he didn't request a tax cert. The seller, who was RBC Bank, said that they would not pay any pending assessments. So, my nastygram, as everyone's called them, the pending notification of foreclosure, is the first communication this man received. The purchase was done in 2010. The billing was done in 2010. Very close. The purchase was April 23rd. The billing was done 7/23. The bills were all sent to RBC Bank. That's a town issue. That's a systems issue. Not to say that this man shouldn't have come to the office and done his own due diligence. He trusted whomever he trusted, and that's what he has asked for. I think his email, I did everything I possibly could to tell him, no, this is not going to happen. I do not take that you're not going to pay me very lightly. He says, too, in his email, I would ask the town council consider waiving the entire assessment. I was not a resident, so I did not know about the cutoff date. I depended on my real estate agent and closing attorney. Apparently, neither of them knew about a cutoff date. I combined the lots with the good faith understanding that there would not be a double assessment. The town was aware of the combination and did not incur the expense of installing a sewer stub for the lot. He bought the lot right next door to him. Didn't have a tax certification done, anything. So what he's asking for is if the town council applies the letter of the law, I have no option other than to pay the double assessment. However, I do respectfully request that they accept $4,200 as payment in full, since I do not know about the assessment and was never notified by the town. There was a public comment made just a few minutes ago about the interest. Anything that is presented to council, these people have paid me the $4,200. I have said this is a council decision, and if they say no, this money's yours, but you still owe this money because it is a lien on the property. As I said, I don't take no very easy. So I have tried my dead little best to research everything to the nth degree to give council the tools to make the best decision they can. In this case, I have no comment. I made no comment or anything on this agenda.
I think probably some council members may have some questions. We'll start with you, Councilman.
The only
Bell.
question I have is why isn't the closing attorney responsible for it? I would not be in favor of releasing any of it.
That's why we put this one on as a new business item and not a consent agenda item, because we weren't going to present what he was really asking for.
Right.
So we presented what we thought was a compromise, but.
He's asking for everything to be released, not just the interest on this situation.
Right.
This was a findable item if the attorney or whoever did their due diligence.
I agree with that, sir.
No, I'm asking you.
Yes, sir, that should be, it is. It is public information, and it is normal course of action that they contact us quite often. The lenders contact my office, the attorneys contact my office, we do tax certifications, we do emails that have my name on it. Of course, an email by the Machinery Act is not necessarily going to hold us responsible, but a tax certification will.
There's a big difference in this one and the interest one with the clerical errors and the software issues and all that.
Well,
This one actually had a closing with a closing attorney.
they did. And the closing attorney whom I've approached, as there are attorneys that will bring me a check. On this island, if I call, there's 2 attorneys on this island, if I call and say, this is the problem, they take care of it before their client or their former client has a chance to take another breath. There's other attorneys on the island who balk. There's attorneys off the island who balk. We've run into a whole lot of this. You're probably going to see a few more. It's because of the due diligence that we're trying to do on all these delinquent sewer assessments. I wish I could today stand here before you and tell you what monies we've collected. I can't. I don't have the figure because our system is such a
It is
an
not good
extremely bad.
practice for them to do a closing with a lien on a piece of property.
I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you. And most of the attorneys around the island, on the island, know that and knew about these sewer assessments. I have no defense for the attorney or the customer here. I just did my due diligence as far as what needed to be presented to you all. All statements were mailed to the former owner, as is in most cases that we've had this situation happen.
His team dropped the ball.
I'm
not
sorry,
us.
what?
His team dropped the ball, not us.
I asked him to go to that attorney.
If I was the attorney, I would pay up.
He's got title insurance probably.
Why was the staff recommending releasing the interest?
I don't know that I don't recommend either way. That's totally your decision. I just presented the facts.
But,
Suggested motion at council's discretion. Is that the one?
Just in case the council decided that at least collecting the assessment in full would take care of the issue, was the recommendation.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to deny the request.
Second, all in favor? Thank you, guys. At this time, the chair would, excuse me.
I believe I've spoken with our attorney, and he does not need a closed session for litigation, so it would just be for specific personnel.
Okay, thank you. This time I entertain a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Make a motion.
You have to read it out.
You have to read it, I'm sorry.
All right, then, I make a motion that we go into closed session to consult the town attorney on
Personnel.
specific personnel pursuant to NC General Statute 143-318-11A36.
Have a second? All in favor? Thank you. At this time, I'll call back the town meeting of Oak Island back to order. I'd like to also state that there was no action taken in the closed session, and I'll entertain an order to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion, excuse me, to adjourn. Second, please.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you.